The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. The Right Side with Doug Billings in hour one. Tearing into President Trump's shutdown revolution, the beauty of it all continues. It is Schumer shutdown. Senator Langford with some truth bombs coming out in the news the other day. Diving into that, slashing $26 billion, Trump is. It's a huge win also out there in the country for women's sports. Going to touch on that. And out in L.A., they're crying emergency over the ICE raids. All of this and more, ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God. And his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Host and opinions of this show, ladies and gentlemen, exemplify what we all need. We all need intellectual maturity, and I, with a great amount, I admit it, with a great amount of joy, point out the intellectual maturity of liberals everywhere. Folks, our YouTube channel is back. I've been telling you this week and a little bit of last. It's been reinstated. YouTube says it was canceled by error, so welcome back. Head on over there and check us out after, of course, the program today. YouTube, the channel is called Welcome to the Right Side, and join us over there for exclusives and some other fun where we can continue on. In the meantime, also, don't forget the Real Talk Radio app, ladies and gentlemen. It's your key. It's your launching pad to truth, wisdom, democracy in our republic that we live in here, and we will always here tell you the truth. Business owners, entrepreneurs, get the word out. Call up the station. Get a hold of Tracy and Rick, by the way. You know, we reach millions of people around the world. You don't need to have something that's just readily available in Missouri or Kansas or the Midwest. If you've got global reach or want to have global affiliates, nothing better than a program like this that reaches literally millions of people around the planet. So today, folks, Trump's shutdown revolution continues to be really the hottest story out there. And what we see, at least in my humble opinion, is Trump draining the swamp right in front of us. And we've all, I think, kind of questioned, how does that work? What is the swamp and how is it drained? Well, so let me take you on a little excursion into understanding this. The Senate is locked in this debate. Okay, so the House has passed a continuing resolution. And Speaker Johnson has basically sent his folks home. So the Senate is grappling with this. The Republicans have presented 24-page continuing resolution package, 24 pages. That's all. Democrats refuse to get into any of this, and it all has to do with Trump. Okay, this is all about Trump. As we will hear from Senator Langford, it is hypocrisy at its highest level, because during the Biden administration, we opened up the government 12 or 13 times or so. But now, because Trump's in power, no, we can't give Trump anything. The direct order is coming from the hierarchy of the party itself. So, but Langford gave everyone on the left side of the aisle a pretty good swat in the face and took them down, because he reminded them. He had the record. He had the quotes from all of his radical left commune socialists, formerly known as Democrat colleagues over there. And this is not a typical shutdown. This is different. So really, this is Trump's golden ticket to drain the swamp, the establishment, the bureaucracy, get the bloated bureaucracy under control. And the bloated bureaucracy that has really been fleecing us for decades. The American government being run by these bureaucrats who are not in elected positions. This is what we have to get our heads around, and this is what you do not hear enough of, if any, in the legacy mainstream media. The bureaucracy of Washington. There are people in the bureaucracy in a cubicle in D.C. who set the tone and standards of policy, policies, of the implications of, or the implementation of policies and procedures. Non-elected bureaucrats, okay? Not as it was intended, obviously. So this has been going on for decades, and so now President Trump, with a wider array of latitude with regards to his executive power, can begin to drain this and get rid of these people, as it should be. But Senator Langford was crystal clear. The federal government is a mess. There are agencies that are duplicating work. We're burning and wasting cash on redundant programs, and all the while in the background, and not always in the background. Sometimes it's right out there in our face. We're pushing this woke DEI agenda. Spending money on what are the effects of cocaine on the green South American tree farm. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. We've heard of the Doge issues and what they've recovered. But Langford, like so many of us, are fed up with the shutdowns being a game of basically political chicken, right? Who blinks first? Who moves first? Where Congress can kick the can down the road, and we all end up suffering. And everything they put forward are nothing more than Band-Aids. So you listen. I think, Zach, we've got a clip. Senator Langford. Langford quotes his colleagues, and it's about a 3.5 minute or so clip. But I play it because I want to draw attention to the hypocrisy of the radical left and remind people of what just during the last, in the Biden administration, this is what people were saying. So this is not ancient history. This is recent. With Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris in control, here's what some of the Democrats were saying. Take a listen to Oklahoma Senator Langford.
In September of last year, said shutting down the government should be a non-starter. My colleague, Senator Mark Warner, said government shutdowns unleash chaos on federal workers, delay pay for service members, and weaken our position on the global stage. My colleague, Bernie Sanders, said shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action that we must do everything possible to prevent. Shutting down the government would impact tens of millions of our fellow Americans who would be unable to access government services. My colleague and friend, Jackie Rosen, said a government shutdown would be devastating to Nevada families. It would increase housing costs, take away food assistance for seniors and children in need. My colleague, Senator Mark Kelly, September of 2023, said a government shutdown would have serious impacts. Service members won't get their paychecks. Airports would have major delays. Nutrition assistance for children could be cut off. We can't let any of that happen. My colleague, Senator Elizabeth Warren, said the least we can do, the bare minimum we can do, would be to pass a continuing resolution to keep the doors open and the lights on. My colleague, Brian Schatz, said, I've seen the same thing over and over again. Shutdowns don't work. My colleague, Senator Gary Peters, said a government shutdown will be a disaster for our economy and for people in Michigan and across the country. My colleague, Tim Kaine, said, I'm a senator from Virginia. Some of the hardest effects of a shutdown would be seen in my state. My colleague, Senator Dick Durbin, has said, negotiating to avoid a government shutdown holds the livelihood of the American people and the proper functioning of this government hostage. My colleague Amy Klobuchar has said shutdowns are not good for the economy. And how about this one? Oh, I've got to find my favorite. My colleague, Chris Murphy, and my friend, made the statement, there's a time and a place to debate health care, just like there's a time and a place to debate energy policy, immigration, and education, but not when funding the federal government and all the lives that are impacted by it hang in the balance.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you, Zach, for the clip. I appreciate it. Senator Langford on point, on target. All of that during the Biden administration, and they don't want to shut the government down then, but they're doing everything they can to keep it shut down now simply because of President Trump's name, his attachment to it. And Trump is turning the tables, putting them on their ear with regards to all of this. Social Security checks are still going out and the military are being paid thanks to President Trump. But the fat, Trump is getting it trimmed. And Langford, he wants a full audit of every department in the government that reports up through and in the executive branch. And he's right. And this is going to show and prove the overlapping and the redundancy that we have in the federal government. Talk about draining the swamp. This is it on steroids. And it's coming at a great time. Everybody, I don't think it takes much to imagine the waste that we know exists in the federal government. Langford wants to do it immediately because we know, and he knows, billions and billions of dollars being wasted. He wants mergers of redundant offices and sunsetting, getting rid of the useless initiatives that we've heard about, all the while shielding the people who we need at the border, in our defense, the Department of War and so forth. And this is what we should be demanding from those who are running for office in our local levels of government. More on that. Boy, do I have a lot to say on that. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, teeing up the right side with Doug Billings upon you. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
That's what we're after, ladies and gentlemen. The right side. Not so much conversation, a little more action, which falls on the shoulders of us all. We all know that the call to action is determined patriotism on the right side, getting involved. But this thing in this shutdown, this is, we talked about as I was going into break, Langford and all of the waste and the redundancies and so forth. And I was trying to make a point that in our local level, we need to be right now, currently demanding from the people who want to put an R behind their name and who want to run for office, especially governors and people in your legislature, your state legislature. We've got to demand that they create a DOGE department in government at the state level. Elon Musk has already given us the template. If you're in Missouri, Governor Kehoe, get on him. And, MDOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, the Missouri Department of Government Efficiency. If you're in Kansas, KDOGE, you get it. You get my drift. Tennessee, TDOGE, right? Alaska, ADOGE, whatever. Get it all done and make sure that you keep on these people, that when they get the Department of Government Efficiency established at your state level, that the governor works with the legislature to make it a permanent cabinet position to the governor. Because I promise you, at the state level, you will find billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And once you find that kind of money, you can begin to have real conversations with your constituents, with people of the state in which you live, to get rid of property tax. Property tax, by the way, is not constitutional. Don't let anybody laugh you out of saying that. Don't let them jeer you or make fun of you. That property tax, I can go, and I'm going to have a show just on this. I've talked about it briefly in certain periods of the time that you and I have had together on this program, but you will see they've got a case in Texas, in fact, coming up, a case that is trying and will, I think, prove that property tax is unconstitutional. Talked a little bit about this yesterday. I'm not going to go down that pathway today with you. I don't want to be redundant, but it does absolutely interfere with and prevent our pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, property tax. So these are the things that we should be demanding from our candidates who want to put an R behind their name this year and next during the midterms and the elections that you have coming up. And this is what Trump is doing at the federal level. This is what people like Senator Langford from Oklahoma are doing. It's the businessman president turning the liberal chaos that we see everywhere around us into a cleanup crew. He's cleaning it up. No leader has ever weaponized the shutdown to reshape the beast of the bureaucracy like President Trump. And it's a good thing. But no one else has done it, Republican or Democrat. It's like Trump snatched Uncle Sam's wallet and said, no more joyrides on the people's dime. And he's right. Langford's on fire about it. Democrats howling about it because their pet projects really now are on the chopping block. And of course, ultimately, folks, the truth is the radical left movement in America, the hierarchy of that party puts their members of Congress, their members of the Senate under orders to not compromise with anything coming from a Trump administration. We can't, they will not do it. So beyond just the mere politics of this, there are literal orders not to do anything. Now, occasionally, you'll see somebody like Mark Fetterman come, who I actually have begun to kind of take a liking. He's actually, he's a Democrat. We don't agree on a lot of the issues, most of them perhaps, but at least he's becoming a voice of reason on that side of the aisle. And so, if a stroke can help him, maybe a stroke would help AOC. I don't know. I don't want to make too much of a joke about that, but he is really a voice, don't you think? A voice of reason over there. But under Biden, and Langford was pointing this out in this, in the clip, under Administrator Biden, ladies and gentlemen, they passed 13 continuing resolutions. 13 continuing resolutions in 4 years, keeping things running without a hitch. But now, with Trump back, Democrats, communist socialists, they're being held hostage by the kook resist fringe of that party, the AOCs in the squad, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Bernie Sanders being held hostage. And those people, AOC, the squad, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren's not totally in. She's not she's a kook, but she's not a complete whack job like AOC and that squad. Ilhan Omar, Presley, and Rihanna, what's her name, right? So you look at these people and you just know they're not going to, they are losing the support of the people, and they have done no self-reflection. They don't sit back and look, we're really kind of getting it handed to us here by the Republicans, and the people are jumping ship. What are we doing wrong? They just, and if they are doing that, they're being overruled. They're not allowed to come to terms with President Trump. They're not allowed to negotiate. And that's a shame, because that's the way the government is supposed to work, but we will root that out. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just getting started. The first half hour already in the can. Stay with me. Don't turn the dial, because if you do, the liberals win. I'll be right back.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, doing what I've been called by God to do, to save the republic along with you, using determined prayer, determined patriotism. That's how we roll over here, talking about the shutdown and the things that we are learning about what people like Senator Lankford. He's not the only one. There's a lot of people on our side who are speaking up and out against the shutdown, the Schumer shutdown. But, you know, when you look at the waste that we see, the $500 million a year on carbon management programs, okay, which is what they're shooting for over there on the other side during the shutdown. Okay, $500 million on carbon management programs. Okay, so that is duplicative of the work that they do in the EPA. It duplicates, it's redundant, and we don't need it. So these are the kinds of things we strike out that they put in. And for us, of course, it seems only logical. Get rid of redundancies. Here's another thing they want in their Democrat Communist Socialist version. Electric vehicle lane perks. Okay? Electrical lane perks. Okay? First of all, what does that mean? Do electrical vehicles get a special lane, I guess? Now we've got to build new infrastructure costing God only knows how much. What about the existing green handouts that we're already giving billions of dollars to? Extra cash. Here's another extra cash for public broadcasting. Okay. The arts and media are already covered. We don't need to have a special continuing resolution to give more cash to public broadcasting. So I'm just telling you, now that you're armed with information to combat your liberal friends, and not necessarily combat, we always want to welcome liberals in off the ledge of Kookville into the room of reason and intellect. So we do that as gently as we can. So I use words like attack or whatever, but you know what I mean. We want to sway them to the right side. And you heard the quotes that Lankford read. Senator Ray Lujan calling shutdowns back when Biden was in control a non-starter. Sandra Lovern on Facebook from Buffalo. I'm sorry, I just saw your text because it says go Bills, Buffalo. I'm glad you're here from New York. Welcome from around the world, no matter where you are. Let me just say this, go Chiefs. Thank you very much. Now, the exclusive kicker that we have with regards to Lankford and what he's saying. Lankford has put forth for debate the Preventing Government Shutdowns Act, and it would lock Congress in session until all 12 appropriation bills are done. No vacations, no golf weekends, no pay. And it almost passed. It had 56 votes. That's one shy, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri, of 57. And with a little spine and a little bit of, oompa, we could have gotten to the 60 required votes if we just could have pushed that a little bit harder. It would have no more furloughs, no more pain for workers, just lawmakers doing their job. The Preventing Government Shutdown Act. Again, for those of us on the right side, so logical, so common sense. But no. Not if you're a liberal, because we can't do it with Trump in control. We can't give him any victories whatsoever. So Trump's going to sidestep all of this, go around them, and begin to slash and burn the government, the bureaucracy. Now, the last time Congress passed all of the bills in time to prevent shutdowns was 1997. 28 years of sloth, of piling up trillions of dollars in redundant spending. So Trump, he's sitting down at his desk, and what is he doing? The audits that he's conducting, the Department of Education. The Department of Education, I know he was going to get rid of it. We're still working to get rid of it. We've got to bless ourselves with the gift of patience, ladies and gentlemen. But 4,000 employees in the Department of Education that oversee programs that states could run for peanuts, saving us $20 billion a year after these audits are conducted. All right. That's just one example. There are many. So we've got Langford pointed out that the debate and the negotiations could continue and they could get meaningful, but the Democrats have got to drop their health care demands for illegal immigrants. They've got to do it. And what we're seeing really is Trump's art of the deal in Washington, D.C., leveraging the pain that all government shutdowns bring. This is not unique just because Trump is in office. Whenever the government is shut down, there's always pain. We all know that. But Trump is using his art of the deal to leverage that pain to get reform, to force reform in D.C. And the Democrats' temper tantrums are proof positive that they are absolutely terrified of losing their bureaucratic empires. And believe me, they've got them. It's like Trump's telling Congress, you're grounded, stay home until the budget is fixed. And someone needs to do it. Someone needs to be the adult in the room, and it's Trump. You can hear about these, by the way, my YouTube station. I want to keep on reminding you, welcome to the right side over there on YouTube, recently reinstated from YouTube, who admitted in a letter to me that they canceled the show in 2021 because of an error. So yes. But I think that the shutdown saga that we need to tear into this thing like a pit bull on a pork chop. Trump, the adult in the room, again, doing something that no president has ever done before, not in our history, turning the shutdown into a chainsaw to carve out government waste, the fraud, the waste. Forget the media, everybody screaming and hollering, Trump's inflicting chaos upon the country. See, this is an example of the gaslighting and the projection that the radical liberal left does. You can better believe that every time the radical left movement in this country and their media lackeys begin to moan and whine and complain about anything, they're gaslighting most of the time. Trump inflicting chaos with his slashes of federal bureaucracy during the shutdown. Projection and gaslighting. What Trump is doing is genius. It should have been done before by prior Republican presidents and Democrat presidents. He's freezing $26 billion in earmarks for blue state boondoggles. Think about California windmills by the thousands that are shredding bald eagles. New York transit plans, stuck in planning since Reagan, by the way, are now being eliminated. Farmers in Kansas. I met a guy by the name of Gary Shaw. Thousands of windmills in Kansas. And other farmers are convinced that when you see thousands of these windmills on the horizon, they're ugly and it's just terrible. The horizon looks terrible. But Gary Shaw and other farmers really believe that those thousands of windmills affect the weather patterns and that it's part of the reason why western Kansas, for example, isn't getting the rainfall that it used to get. It's not just cost cutting. It's a constitutional haymaker for the Republicans, and they're taking advantage of it. Trump's wielding what is called the Impoundment Control Act, okay? And by doing that, he can defer non-essential spending, okay? This is part of the extra power that a president has, any president, during a shutdown. And this was all backed up earlier this year by a Supreme Court stay when they tried to stop him from doing this. Clinton in 95, he caved. There was a shutdown during his presidency. He caved it. Trump in 2018, now he got a little bit of a pittance for the wall that he wanted to build, remember? But he didn't get a lot. And now he has this RIF that we used to call when I was in HR, the IR, it's a reduction in force, right? A RIF. And he's planning on hitting agencies like the EPA and NOAA, the weather channel, right? Chopping dead weight out of those bureaucracies. Good. He's turned the shutdown into The Apprentice, right? The Apprentice, the Swamp Edition, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you in the deep state. And it is. And it's really great to see. I think we should all be paying attention to this. Trump will negotiate. Democrats won't. They won't negotiate at all because it exposes their addiction to big government. We don't have a revenue problem in America, and I will bet you, no matter where you live, if you look at your state, you probably don't have a revenue problem in your state. What you've got, what we've got at the federal level and at the state level, I think, is a spending problem, my friends. And so with Trump doing this, billions of dollars saved, taxpayers win. And this is where we take a breath and say patience, because we'll begin to see the effects of this in our daily lives, at the grocery store, at the gas pump, and etc. He's rebuilding, Trump is, a leaner, meaner government. It's a historic first. It's overlooked completely in the mainstream media. This, I will bet you also, this is the first time you're hearing about any of this in this kind of detail. Trump's targeting programs that exploded under Administrator Biden, like $2 billion in the Health and Human Service Equity Training Program, ladies and gentlemen. Equity training for doctors, okay? Now that's frozen, okay? $2 billion, frozen. There's $1.5 billion in the Commerce Department, but it's redundant coastal climate grants. You know, it's the redundancies in the waste. I could go on and on. And there is the OMB director, Russ Vought, leaked a memo. Probably not on purpose, but it was leaked at any rate. And Politico got its hands on it, where it details that 15,000 non-essential job cuts will be implemented. Okay, nobody likes it when people lose their jobs, but if they're redundant, in corporate America, you know, the 80-20 rule, we get rid of 20, we keep 80. We've got to get rid of the low performers. This is what's going on, the low performers and the redundancies. And it's unfortunate. But how did we get here? Both sides are equal to blame, Republicans and Democrats alike. But with 15,000 non-essential job cuts, it saves America $800 million a month. So the hits begin to hit hard in the blue states. California, $500 million in green pork ignition, gone. No more Green Deal nonsense, California. Not from the federal government. You're just not getting. Why doesn't Governor Newsom start managing his forests a little bit better so that we don't have forest fires every year and have to come to his rescue? Okay, New York, I mentioned them earlier, a $300 million subway study. A subway study. It's toast. It's done. $300 million saved. And when we look at this through the lenses of history, President Clinton had a 26-day shutdown back in 95 and 96. It boosted him in the polls because people tended to believe it wasn't his fault, but it left the bureaucracy untouched. He didn't do anything like what Trump is doing now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, wow. Hour number one coming to an end quickly. You got to take one more break into the beautiful land of capitalism. I'll be here to wrap up hour one. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity. And you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Yeah, music from the king, ladies and gentlemen. Music by the king. All right, now wrapping up hour number one here, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking about before the break the historical view I was giving you about shutdowns and the lack of ability to get a grip on and reduce the bureaucracy that has been growing and growing and growing. Clinton's 26-day shutdown, 26-day shutdown, 1995-96. Like I said, boosted him up in the polls because people tended to take his side on that issue, but he didn't touch the bureaucracy. Now, Trump in 2018 and 2019, now he didn't do as good as he's doing now. You know, he was new, but he had a 35-day fight where he got $1.3 billion for border fencing. Okay. He didn't get any reform, no bureaucracy cuts, but he got that money for his wall. Now, in Trump 2.0 here, he knows the game. He's deferring $4 billion in foreign aid, which has been backed up now, that decision backed up by the Supreme Court. And he's targeting, again, another 20% of the federal programs, some of which I've touched on here in the first hour, for consolidation or elimination. Okay. This is him. This is what he was talking about. Remember, when he was running for the second term, he said, I know the game now. I'm gonna move much quicker with more agility. We're gonna get things done faster. So good. And we can see that here. And sometimes, yes, it takes people to point it out because, I mean, like I said, you don't hear this in the mainstream media. And so Democrats will scream words like coercion or suffering or chaos, projection, gaslighting, projection. That's what they do. But Article 2 of the Constitution is clear, ladies and gentlemen. It says that the president can execute laws. Okay? The Congress has the purse strings. They can decide how much money to spend on whatever, but the president can actually execute and make cuts at the executive branch level. He's the executive of the government, and government offices that report up to the executive branch, he can slash, and he can audit, and he can make changes. So the political fallout, the Republicans like Joni Ernst want $2 trillion in cuts. Let's go. If you're going to do it, let's really go. Let's put the pedal to the metal and go. Make the people squeal a little bit. Not people like you and me. She means the Democrats. Let's make them squeal as we continue to go forward fast. And what the Democrats also are afraid of, and keep this in mind, this lean government that Trump wants, it kills the radical liberal bureaucrat voter base. How? Because the bureaucrats that are being shed are liberal primarily, and they have put forward an agenda as non-elected officials, mind you, as I said at the top of the hour, non-elected officials running the government in these bureaucracies, making decisions about how you and I will be affected by the laws that they decide, or the regulations that they decide to engage with or not. So the bureaucracy being cut. Union lawsuits. Now, yes, we can always count on some unions, not all of them, but we can always count on a few of the kooks to file lawsuits. And one did just on Monday. They're claiming these layoffs are unfair. They're trying to protect their people. Believe me, I negotiated union contracts for a living in corporate America. Collective bargaining agreements. Most of the unions I dealt with, I dealt with some doozies. The auto workers, the steel workers, Teamsters, the nurses unions were kooks through and through, because this National Nurses of California group, oh boy, I could tell you blood-curdling tales. Free health care for everybody they wanted. Free health care. Oh, and by the way, 2 nurses for every patient. 2 nurses. I mean, folks, that kind of nonsense, how expensive. That shuts down hospitals. It doesn't do anybody any good, but I digress. My point is, I have experience in negotiating these kinds of deals, and we need what Trump is doing. The unions come in, and they're these kook unions who really, really don't. Now, some do. Again, I'm just going to reiterate. This is not a blanket statement for all unions. Some unions out there really do care about their people. But the business model for a union is dues times heads equals profit. That's their business model. Now, they're going to wail and scream, oh, well, Billings, you're not anti-union, not necessarily. I think unions are probably more redundant than we think, because I think there's already laws on the books that make what they want to do redundant. And if we want to, No reputable country is going to engage with child labor laws, for example. Now, yes, occasionally you've got a rogue company out there that does it, but they'll get caught, a whistleblower or somebody. So unions, redundant, maybe. But Trump being challenged yet again, we can see these things bubble up through the courts. It's going to land on the Supreme Court's desk. He'll win again. He'll win again because he's the executive of our government. He's like a chef, right? Trimming the fat away from a bloated steak. But the Democrats want the whole cow. That's what they want. And so what our call to action is, first, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the top of the hour break, go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel. It's called Welcome to the Right Side. It's been reinstated by YouTube. They made a mistake. They say they made an error. But head over there, get more exclusive material from me. Get the Real Talk Radio app. Please share it with your friends. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching on Rumble, share it out every day. I know there's John Wick and Elaine. I see you guys every day. Sandra, Clem, thank you for always being there. And I'm going to open up the phone lines next hour, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be part of the beauty of this program, stand by. 636-224-6300 is the phone number. I'd love to hear from you next hour. This is determined patriotism. This is what we do. This is what we're called to do. This is how we recover the republic away from this radical liberal nonsense. And again, on a hopeful and positive note, millions, hundreds, dozens upon dozens of millions of people converting over, coming back home to the Republican right side every day because of the nonsense that they see being demonstrated by the radical left kook mob in Washington, which again is a radical minority group. They're not the majority, but you've got people like Chuck Schumer who are scared to death because he's going to have to run an election. He's going to have to get reelected. And there's a real chance that AOC is going to run against him. We'll see, but there's talk about that. And she may win. So Chuck wants to do everything he can to make her happy. Never mind that she represents 0.0001% of the thought process in that party, but she controls it and the squad because they're loud, they're boisterous, and they gaslight, they project, they bully, they do all of it on that side to get them in line. You cannot and will not give Trump a victory. Those are the orders that you have. So get out there and fight and resist at every chance. Nothing Trump suggests can be taken. Seriously, we can't do this ever. Those are your orders. And then they get on the phones with their hacks and their lemmings in the media, and they have their face call meetings, and they give them the same orders. Follow suit. Here's your talking points. Ready, set, go. That's how they do it, and that's the truth. All right, next hour, a victory for women, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to talk a little bit about you and how the mythology of transgenderism is once again heading up its way into the Supreme Court, and a victory for women in women's sports coming up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, top of the hour break. Stay with me. Go get a cup of coffee or another drink. Get a Coke, glass of water. I'll be right back. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Top of hour number 2, where I, Doug Billings, and The Right Side are with you, and we stand shoulder to shoulder as we help each other discover wonder, joy, and meaning in this republic, trying to do it to the best of my ability. Going to step on the clutch, folks, shifting gears here on The Right Side a little bit to remind you of what's going on in the courtrooms as we are witnessing again the potential big win for women in the United States, and reminding you that if you want to be part of the program, feel free to call in 636-224-6300. Zach and Fish will open up those phone lines in case anybody wants to join. We're happy to have you. 636-224-6300. The courts, women in sports, the myth of transgenderism, ladies and gentlemen. I'll explain. A federal judge has ruled that the Supreme Court case on trans athletes can proceed, smacking down the sneaky attempt by the radical left to dismiss all of this. There is a judge in the country who's on the right side, U.S. District Judge David Nye, who is, yes, a Trump appointee. He's in Idaho, or no, he's ruling on an Idaho case. And he has said that Idaho has a right to its day in court after years of fighting about this particular trans issue. I'll give you some details here as I set the stage. So Idaho has a law that bars trans athletes from women's sports. Good for them. And it was challenged, obviously, by a former Boise State runner, Lindsay Heckox. Lindsay, who tried to drop the suit once the Supreme Court took it up, but it got picked up by radical groups along the way. Lindsay, but I looked online. Lindsay, I couldn't find what his birth name is. Yes, his. I couldn't find what his birth name is. I did find when I searched this verbiage surrounding a search for a transgender birth name. On information regarding Lindsay Hickox's pre-transition or birth name, often referred to as a, quote, dead name. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what they called their names. That's what these people call their birth names, a dead name. You're dead to me. My former identity is dead to me. Yeah. So none of that's publicly available. Transgender individuals apparently are private. Their names are private. Their birth names, their dead names, whatever you want to call them, they're private, personal details. And reputable sources are suggesting that we respect those decisions made by these people and not disclose that information online. Now, if you're probably a much better internet sleuth than I am, ladies and gentlemen. So if anybody can find Lindsay Heckox's real name, Heccox, it's a man. It's just the same thing with Bruce Jenner. I never call him whatever his new name is. I don't even know. I blocked it out. I literally cannot remember what he's calling himself. If you were to say it, I'd remember it. But that's my point. I blocked that out because it's Bruce Jenner. Nothing's changed. The only thing's changed that he's got surgery and some cellulite or whatever added in, chemicals added in, hormones. Still a man, still Bruce Jenner. My point. But we have this issue in Idaho. Wow. You see, really, transgenderism is a myth. It doesn't exist. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's a mental disorder. These people can't change their genders. So my take on the Idaho case, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. It's a massive win for women. It's a massive win for women's sports. The transgender Kookville mob, they should just start their own league. Well, they can't, Doug, because there's not that many of them. Exactly. That's my point. The vast minority of people in this country tend to want to control the majority. We have to bend the knee to the radical minority. Start their own league. Get it done. Go compete against your own kind. Biology over ideology. We're winning. And I thought the liberals loved science. I thought we were supposed to respect and believe and trust science on this. Right. So Lindsay Heckox, I like that. He's done competing, no longer an athlete. He's out of, but Judge Nye thought this was all manipulative. They're trying to get rid of the case, to dodge the absolute certainty of a ruling in our favor. And that's what they saw, the writing on the wall. If it's going to go to the Supreme Court, we're going to lose this thing. So they tried to withdraw it, and Judge Nye said, no, you're going to go forward. The case is going to go forward. I love this judge. We need more of these. There's a lot more Trump appointees out there, and I know that not every one of them gets a sensationalized case like this, but I like it. No, we want to withdraw our case, Judge. No, you're going to go all the way to the Supreme Court because they're going to rule once and for all on this nonsense. I just love it. And so the Idaho Attorney General, Raul Labrador, good guy, and a group called Alliance Defending Freedom are backed up. And by the way, 27 other states have backed this case up in Idaho. 27 other states. And so they're fighting for fairness for women in sports. So a Supreme Court decision could lock in, finally and for all, national rules that protect girls from unfair competition, that protect college women from unfair competition. No more Cookville transgender jaunts into the opposite sex restroom. You know what I mean? Trump is the one who set all of this in motion, by the way. Again, the most substantial president in the history of history, folks. Liberals want inclusion. Yeah, we want the inclusion. Inclusion's good. But their version of inclusion kicks women off of the podium. You can't win against these transgenders if you're a woman, not in 99.9% of the time. And so West Virginia, kind of in the same kind of battle. Equal protection doesn't mean, we can protect equally people. We don't have to erase science, though, to do it. Oh, but he's really a girl. He's really a woman. No, actually, he's not. We are not going to erase science so that you can deprive real women and real girls of their ability to compete. So finally, a slam dunk for sanity. Thank you, Judge Nye. Someone in Idaho who's listening, I know you're out there, send our appreciation to this judge. It's a great thing. And in the history of this case, you look back on it, like if you're like me, of course, I dig into this and I want to be able to tell you about it. So he talks here we are up against a break.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the Kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings, dispensing intellectual maturity to those brave enough to listen, where you, by therefore, can become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land. Fish is in the studio. He's producing the show. I get this message. It just says Caitlin right here on my screen. And I go, oh, Caitlin's on the phone, because I just asked for people to call in on the call line 636-224-6300. We got Caitlin on. Well, he goes, no, I was just telling you that's Bruce Jenner's name now. I go, Fish, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to send everybody into a tizzy. You agree? It's still Bruce Jenner to me, though. What do you think? Am I crazy?
No. I would agree. It's hard to know somebody by another name, let alone another sex.
Fish, in 300 years, hypothetically, if a group of archaeologists find the bones of Bruce Jenner, what kind of bones will they find? They'll find the bones of a man. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't argue that.
Thanks, Fish. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Fish, the one and only. Many of you know Fish. Zach takes us through the first hour behind the board and in the studio. Fish is finishing up with us usually on most days in the second hour, and a great team here at Real Talk. But yeah, so the lines are open. Whether or not Caitlyn Jenner is out there and wants to call in and give me trouble for saying that transgenderism is a myth, I don't know. But 636-224-6300, giving you the backdrop of this great case that it's from Idaho, gonna go to the Supreme Court. This Lindsay Hecox, okay, sued. She's from Boise. He was an athlete and on the women's cross country team. Okay, now there was a biological female. They don't mention her name in the story. They call her Jane Doe, protecting her identity. Worried about invasive sex tests that would have to go on. So this big hubbubaloo. To make a long story short, there was an injunction by a lower court in 2020. So this is an old case, 5 years old or so, right? So a lower court, as typically is the case, a liberal court blocks Idaho's law that says women can't or men can't compete. Biological men can't compete in women's sports. And that was upheld by a Ninth Circuit court in 2023. Well, the Supreme Court caught wind of this and grabbed it up just this past July. So now Lindsay Hecox, the man who thinks he's a woman, has claimed, no, I don't have any more. I have no intent to compete. You can throw this case away. I'm no longer on that team. I'm not competing. Well, that was just a stunt to moot the case. They didn't want the Supreme Court to rule on this because they know it's a loser. So Judge Nye, just on October 10th, just a couple of days ago, rules and calls these people out. This case will go forward, and Idaho does have a right to its day in court, and women do have rights to compete against their own gender. So after 5 years, finally, we're seeing this happen. And again, another point I often talk about, we as conservatives need to bless ourselves with the virtue of patience, because justice doesn't always happen, and it's by design not supposed to happen fast. We need to get all sides of the story out. We need to do thorough investigations and so forth. Okay. Which grinds on people's nerves. And I myself am not a patient person. In my private life, I have hardly any. It's a constant prayer, my Lord. And there are people out there, don't pray too much for patience, Doug, because God is going to continue to give you reasons whereby you're going to need patience. Well, I am not. I tend to want things right now. Okay. Especially when I was in corporate America. Let's get this done now. We've got an agenda. Let's get it done. You know what I mean? I'm sure a lot of that resonates. But in American justice, we can't always have everything that we want right away. So Idaho's daughters deserve, I think, reality-based competition. Can we call it that? All right. We have Tracy on the line. Okay. Thank you, Fish. He does want to talk about the judge and Jenner. Tracy, thank you for calling. Welcome to the right side.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate your program and appreciate this. I wanted to say thank you so much for mentioning the science, and what you said was exactly what I was going to say about the bones, the archaeological science.
Yes.
They always think about let's listen to science, and But this judge, Nye, I wonder if he's related to Bill Nye, the science guy.
Well, wouldn't that be a kick in the pants? That would be great. Yeah.
And I wish that they had, I know they couldn't include sororities, but that's probably going to be the next thing, because there was a sorority case where they just insisted that this person be included, and the judge just wiped his hands of it. And thirdly, what you said about the bones and everything. Also, how are you going to treat a person when they go to the doctor? Are you going to treat them as a woman, or are you going to physically treat them as a man when it comes to chemicals or whatever? And also, if you're a Supreme Court nominee and you're supposedly a woman, to say something so ignorant as to, I'm not a doctor, so I can't define what a woman is. I never researched that lady to see if she had children, because that would have been one of the questions I would ask her. So,
well, Tracy, yeah, no, you're spot on. I love it. Supreme Court justice, that whole thing was crazy. And I'm really thinking now about this Nye. Wouldn't that be great if he's related to Bill Nye the Science Guy? Because Bill Nye the Science Guy is an abject kook when it comes to this stuff. And to have this judge make these kinds of rulings about this and the science of it all, I think that would make for a great Thanksgiving dinner conversation at the Nye family table. Thanks for the call, Tracy. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're out there listening. Ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open, 636-224-6300 if you want to be part of it. But yes, Idaho finally gets their day in court. And as I was saying, reality-based competition, ladies and gentlemen, looks like a win for women. And when we get this Supreme Court ruling, another great step for women and womankind. But we can support it. 27 states, Texas, Florida, even Guam has filed a brief in support of what they're doing in Idaho. So all of that paired up with what's going on in West Virginia, Save the Women's Sports Act. Don't know if a lot of you have heard of that. Again, it wouldn't surprise me because this kind of thing doesn't tend to get a lot of coverage in the mainstream. But where trans athlete, there's a guy by the name of Becky Pepper Jackson, who's on steroid blockers, who took third in the discus competition, apparently. I bet he's a real beauty. But a ruling from the Supreme Court would clarify the whole Title IX sex-based protections and so forth and trans mandates that we've been forced to live with the last several years. And it could really save girls' sports, folks. This is not a laughing matter. This could save girls' sports nationwide. Volleyball, track, swimming. We all saw, I think most of us saw the last Olympics where a lot of people said he's a man boxing in the women's division. We all saw it, but we all know we don't need to be scientists. Trans women who are really men keep their strength advantages post all of this hormone therapy. You can take all of the hormone therapy you want. They still keep their strength advantages over biological women.
Let's go, girls.
Perfect, Fish. Perfect. As we head into the bottom of the hour, don't turn the dial because the trans movement will win if you do. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity. And you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we express viewpoints from the side of liberty, logic, and truth. Always and every day, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. Thank you for being with us. Phone lines open, 636-224-6300. Women's sports, the transgender myth, the transgender mental disease finally looks like it might have its day in court at the Supreme Court, and we will have finally, I hope, a remedy and an answer, an end to this madness. You've got this thing is real, a real problem for girls, biological women. Imagine being a college athlete or a high school athlete, and you're trying to get a scholarship. And yet, Johnny, who's had the snip, snip, tug, tug, he's getting their scholarship because, we're all about equality, and he identifies as a woman now, little Johnny does. That when I look at that, ladies and gentlemen, bear with me for a moment. This is the problem. We in this country, it is amazing when we look at the radical liberal movement, okay? This movement that we see, not just in the United States, but around the world. Let me use an example of our last presidential election. President Trump and J.D. Vance going up against Vice Pretender Harris and Tim, poster child of the wussified man, Walz. All right? going up against these two most radical liberal candidates that the Democrat Party has ever put up, the two most liberal candidates. I am convinced, and I'll put this to you, ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats, the Communist Socialists, they had no intention of really winning that election. Now, they would have taken it had they could get it, right? But their number one agenda, it ties into exactly what I'm talking about. In my opinion and in my analysis of this, and as I look at what they did, their number one objective with putting Vice Pretender Harris and Tim Skippy Walz up there wasn't to win the presidency. It was, their number one goal was to continue to push the social and political needle in this country as far to the left as possible. They would have taken the presidency, as I say, but their number one goal was to push the needle to the left. Because you look at evidence of the obvious, okay? Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. You look at what they do. What are the talking points of the current day Democrat Communist Socialist Party? Well, it's what we're talking about right here, what we were talking about for the last half hour, the transgender nonsense, okay? Open borders, transgenderism. We are talking about the most ridiculous liberal and far left topics imaginable. I don't see how you can hear any other or come to any other conclusion. To think that that this major American political party and the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, I say that a lot because I don't believe the Democrat Party exists anymore, ladies and gentlemen. To think that they would dare to put forth on their platform and work within their policies and their politics that in order for children to be happy, children who believe in this myth called transgenderism and their parents who believe in this myth and this mental illness called transgender, the only way these children could be happy, according to the radical left, is if they mutilate their body parts. That's barbaric, medieval savagery, satanic, and it is part of the overall spiritual warfare that we're going through in this country. That's the goal of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, to move the social and political needle as far to the left as possible. And we will not stand for it. We will not and we cannot. All right. How's that for a soapbox, ladies and gentlemen? Remember, 636-224-6300 if you want to get in. I am seeing, Fish is telling me that some of you have also texted about Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who was on a trip today. He had to turn back over the Atlantic and come back. They lost altitude and landed at a Royal Air Force base in Suffolk. So he's apparently okay. They had some issues with the plane. They had to make an emergency landing. Things are good, though, apparently. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is okay. And Fish will keep me updated if anything else happens or if there's anything else we need to know with regards to that. So, speaking of Pete Hegseth and what they're doing, and it reminds me of ICE and what we're going through, because that's another major story that the radical liberal left is pursuing, and what we need to stand up against. In Los Angeles, this is where we need a song. Remember that old song called "Send in the Clowns"? A couple of people did renditions of that, but L.A., California, folks, send in the clowns, because the clown show out there is right now. And true to form, there's Fish. Isn't it rich? Me as a Democrat trying to convince Trump that he's wrong. Yes, it's crazy. You can't do it. He's right. And there it is. Send in the clowns. LA, they are now claiming that there's a state of emergency because of ICE. A climate of fear we're living in out here in California, all because of ICE and Trump and what he's doing. We have never before in the history of this country seen anything like, folks, this is not unprecedented. I'm watching a show called America in Color on, I don't think it's Netflix, but it might be. At any rate, 1930s, tanks rolling down the streets in California and other places trying to get mobs under control, unions under control. This has happened before. We try to, law enforcement, liberals, they don't enact the laws. They don't support the laws. The police force is ordered, and I extend grace to all of the police departments. I back the blue. It's the mayors and the city councils and the governors who are giving orders to these fine law enforcement officers to stand down. So this climate of fear, as the radical liberal movement says, because of ICE. There's a Los Angeles County supervisor by the name of Janice Hahn, and another one, Holly Mitchell, both claimed that all of this, what they're trying to do is trying to save families from pain and disorder. Pain and disorder? The radical liberals are trying to save families from pain and disorder? Are you kidding me? They are the party of chaos and pain and agony. Oh, no, we're the party of human dignity, Doug. We're the party that lifts up human beings. Just look at the care we give them at the border. Just look at under Obama and Biden, the living conditions that we've provided. Folks, let me tell you something about that, because it is one of my absolute pet peeves. The audacity, the abject BS to think that the Democrat Party somehow enhanced human dignity by inviting millions of people to come up through our southern border illegally. No one who came up through our southern border, no one got to the United States side without first dealing with the cartels and paying either a heck of a lot of money or giving them their children or some other human being as payment. I'm not making it up. So don't tell me about the radical liberal left, how they are enhancing human dignity by allowing everyone to come up free and unfettered. It's absolute nonsense. No one has inflicted as much horror on people as what that process did. Not the long journey on foot, dealing with the bloody cartels, rape trees down there with clothing from women, boys, and children, girls in the trees, the clothing as a symbol of their savagery on display for everyone as a warning. You've got to deal with us. Thank you very much, Democrats, for thinking and trying to pretend that you enhance human dignity. You shred it. You shred it and you destroy it. And so in Los Angeles, here they are. Pain and disorder caused by the Republicans. That's what they're claiming. And we laugh and we say, whatever. The reactions to this, again, Newsom, who is he's right out of central casting of Kookville. ICE has fired back with words. The emergency is for citizens here, okay? Not criminal illegal aliens. We want the criminal illegal aliens dealt with. And let me remind you about living conditions and borders and locking people up. It was Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the Democrats who locked up the Japanese during World War II. It was the Democrat Party who founded and nurtured the Ku Klux Klan and wanted slavery to remain. And today, since they can't put literal shackles on the people they want to enslave, they do it in the form of entitlements. Free stuff. All you got to do is do what we tell you, and we'll pay for everything. And that's slavery. Entitlements keep you enslaved to the government. It's the same thing. It's the party of slavery. And more people are breaking out of those shackles and seeing the truth. Thanks to good people like you who share programs like this. Trump's raids in California, with 500 detentions already in Los Angeles, by the way, since September, are 80% felons. 80% of the illegals that they've wrapped up are felons. So we, as conservatives, obviously we know our call to action is to back the blue, back border security, back ICE, call our representatives, email them until your fingers have blisters, because this emergency that the radical left is calling, that ICE has supposedly started, is another piece of evidence that I put to you, that the radical left movement in this country chooses criminals over citizens. And I don't care about the level of immigrant criminality we're talking about, because I'll get this from the liberals. Well, Doug, you know that Sarah over here is from, Mexico. She's 80 years old. She works at the local 7-Eleven. I mean, she's not hurting anybody. Can we not? Do we have to yank her? This is why President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security with Kristi Noem have instituted the self-deport policy. Self-deport, identify, and we pay for it. Go back to the country of origin that you came from. We pay for it, we buy you the flight, and then we get you in line so that you can come back in legally. We'll take care of that entire process for you. Please, we have got to have rule and law and order. And I had a meeting with, I live in the Kansas City area. I had a meeting with Archbishop Sean McKnight, a great man, a great Catholic shepherd of the church. And I'm disappointed in what Pope Leo has said. I will tell you, there is no church that's perfect when it's left in the hands of human beings. As a Catholic, I have my own set of beliefs about what Jesus did and what he started. And no church, no pope is perfect. We will always have law and order, however. We must always have law and order. Nothing will stand in the way. The gates of hell will not prevail against it. I will be right back, ladies and gentlemen, to take us home into the last segment of the show. Thank you. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Almost ready to put hour number 2 in the show for today in the can. And the right side. Standing shoulder to shoulder, you and I, as we try to endeavor to recover the Republic from the radical left liberal movement. Before the break, I was talking about, anything, church, government, a group that you belong to. Nothing is perfect when it's left in the hands of human beings. And I understand that we have to look at all of this, the immigration problem, the chaos that we see around us through multiple lenses, with law and order, with faith, with strength, with determination, with patience. All of these things we need to filter what we see. We are nothing if we don't have law and order in this country. Clearly, we stand with people who are legally immigrating into this country. Now, what I'll add on to that, what is required is that it's one thing to have people legally immigrate. We want that. This is what America is founded on. Legal immigration, not this open border rush, right? This open border nonsense. That's not law and order. That only incites chaos. That in chaos, as I've told you, is the radical liberal movement's patron demon. This is a very demonic spiritual deal, and I believe it in my heart and soul. Chaos is very real. It's a product of what the radical liberal movement puts forth, and it's done on purpose. We must have law and order. We must have immigration that is done legally. But what I will add on to that is that once immigrants come into our country legally, step number 2, and as equally important, is that they assimilate into our culture and into our society, and that they become Americans, not these pockets of radical groups that come in and set up camp and shop in certain states. Detroit, Michigan, I don't know if any of you have had a chance. A real problem with immigrant groups who are not assimilating. And number 1 at the top of the list is the radical Islamic group. It's a real problem. It is a real problem. There is no reorganized Church of Islam out there. There is no reorganized or reformed version of Islam. It's still the radical Islam. They don't reform. And I'm the only one, to my knowledge, that has said, at least on my social media platforms, the only one who has said those kinds of things. Now, there are other people who I know believe what I just said. They're not as bold in saying it. But we've got a problem with people that don't assimilate. And that's got to change. We have to remain absolutely bold in our perseverance to preserve this republic. Because remember, the goal of the radical liberal movement, in the words of Barack Obama himself, America needs to be fundamentally transformed, he said. That's their goal. They do it through a number of avenues. Illegal immigration, open the floodgates, trying to dilute the American identity, right there, right in front of us. New electoral-based voters for them, all of these illegals, trying to get them the right to vote, et cetera, et cetera. But this non-assimilation of people is a real problem, and we've got to begin to talk about it and take drastic action to correct it. We're all Americans. We're all in favor of legal immigration. But you can't have American citizens play second fiddle or be at risk, whether it be for benefits or their very life, when it comes to illegal criminals. And that's what Trump is rounding up. The illegal criminal element first, and giving the other people chances to self-deport and go back and get in line. All at the expense of the federal government, by the way. Won't cost the illegal folks who are here, who are otherwise, other than breaking the law to get here, who have not, have been good workers, they still have to go back. So the example I used of Tracy or Jane or whoever from whatever country who's 80 years old and a productive citizen, she works at the 7-Eleven, she's got to go back. She's got to go back home. There is no quarter. There is no excuse. There is no exemption. Got to go back, got to get in line, got to come in and do it the right way. And the radical communist socialist movement will never give up until we, the people, vote them out. And so we have a lot of work to do. Determined patriotism is not easy. We endeavor, by virtue of listening to programs, getting the truth that we don't get in the legacy media, to get involved. And the number one way you do it, of course, is you get involved in your local level at whatever county, wherever you live. That's how we recovered this whole thing. I could give you story after story. Federal sanctuary cities who, in other words, you look at Portland. Portland's a beautiful city. Oregon is a beautiful state. So is California. So is Washington State. Chicago, a great place. It used to be. And then when the radical left liberal movement takes over and it becomes a sanctuary state and a sanctuary city, not so much anymore. And so that all costs millions and millions of dollars. When you have ICE, you've got police forces, you've got the mob burning down, engaging in anarchy every night. These are the things that we need to talk about out loud for resolution. And I know all over the country, churches are swamped with aid requests. They need help. Hospitals, they have to eat all of the unpaid bills that they spend money on medicine and care for, these illegals. There's an organization, The Guardian, 50% of Los Angeles' undocumented aliens fear leaving home, right? Because they're afraid they're going to get swept up by ICE. Well, no one wants anybody to live in fear, but if they're good, solid people, other than being here illegally, then have them self-deport. Why doesn't the church escort them into the nearest ICE station for processing so that they can get a free ticket home and get in line and come back? Oh, it's too much about. It's a lot easier than having to traverse deadly terrain and deadly cartels. The conservative movement providing real human dignity for these people. You know, Obama did this. Obama had raids. He sent back children. What was the kid's name? When they sent him back to Cuba. Why the double standard? Of course, we don't get any answers from them. We know why. It's a rhetorical question. But Obama had raids. Obama sent people back. Obama was in favor of borders. Obama didn't want unfettered access to this country. None of them did. Until it became clear that the true fundamental transformation of America probably wouldn't be possible without that kind of chaos. And then they all began to be in favor of it. The emergency in Los Angeles, it's like crying wolf after we've already let the gate be opened. It is a double standard that we have always known, we've always seen, and now the Democrat Communist Socialist Party trying to do everything they can. You watch, ladies and gentlemen, at every move and at every corner, chaos. Point to me a policy or a platform or a piece of their politics that the radical left puts forward that doesn't create chaos, that doesn't cause division.
A little less conversation.
That's what they're all about, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 2 in the can. Thank you very much. Please get the Real Talk Radio app. Stay with us. You can listen anywhere in the world. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Never fear. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. We are in this together. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.